Hey, Sharif, you're muted.
Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on sun and how we can utilize more resources from our natures. And we have our world famous speaker, Professor David Smith. Uh, Professor David, uh, I know that this is very tough topic, maybe different, difficult, but I know that how you always handle a difficult topic. And our student, our youth community learn a lot of things from you.
Well, Sharif, thank you with this. I do hope we have the other join us, as I do have to leave before very long. But if you look today, most of the energy that we use uh, across the world is to some extent solar energy. Fossil fuels, for example, are really just ancient biofuels, a recovery of the sun's power falling on the earth millennia ago, making the plants of the time grow, feeding the ecosystem, which lived, died, rotten down to form the oil and gas and coal that we're using so much. So all these biofuels come from plant growth, which was created almost entirely from photosynthesis from the solar energy. So when you first look at this topic, you're going to think, oh, I'm going to talk about solar cells only. And solar cells are a very important part, but it also has all these others. If you look at the solar energy directly, the photovoltaic panels are a way to begin to do it, but there's mech a multitude of other mechanisms from harnessing the solar power directly. One of the ways we see that in the climates where it gets cooler is, for example, we will put a blanket over the top of, for example, outdoor swimming pools. And that blanket will capture the solar power in it to warm the water and heat it up. There's something called a solar furnace that can produce temperatures up to over 3,500 degrees Kelvin, uh, which can melt holes in actually uh, sheets of steel from just focusing the sunlight. Wind power, wave power, hydroelectric power are actually all methods of collecting solar energy. And without the sun, we wouldn't get any wind. And without the wind, we don't get waves. And uh, without the waves, we don't get the power from it. And so without the sun, we wouldn't get a water cycle. So no hydroelectric power would be there either. Um, you begin to see the only place where energy source where I do not see the involvement of some type of sun and solar power is in nuclear power, and we just don't see it there yet. But you can see the other sides, of how it's being used, how it's being applied, what it is. So let's just talk a minute about how the solar power is generated, how the radiation's done, how the other elements done from it. If you look at the stars, there's a couple of different ways the stars generate power, but let's just focus on our sun a minute. The solar energy is created by nuclear fusion that takes place on our sun. And nuclear fusion occurs when protons of hydrogen atoms collide with others to create a helium atom. It's the collision of the hydrogen and the helium atoms that create the fusion, which creates the power. On our sun, this process is known as a PP chain reaction, a proton proton chain reaction. And that really releases an enormous amount of energy. And this is a process that we have been trying to duplicate for the last 30 years of trying to do a P2P type of reaction to create a fusion generator like our sun. Um, and on our sun, about 620 million metric tons of hydrogen are formed every second by this P2P reaction. So that's a lot of the energy that you get to see coming from it. The other type you see, though, is on stars that are 1.5 times our size of our sun. There's a CNO cycle that drives theirs. but it relies on carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen to do so. And on our sun, there's some of that process going on, but only about 2% of our sun's energy is created by that CNO process. And you see that. So the other thing you see is that the energy, heat, and light from the sun flow towards us and on the earth in a form of electromagnetic radiation. And this is where we see a lot of how the power hits us. So we see that in all parts of the frequency band. So we see gamma rays, X rays, ultraviolet rays, and the most harmful of those rays are the UV rays, which we see here on the Earth. The sun also emits infrared radiation, and most of the heat we receive from the sun that allows us to do some of the energy conversions is actually in this infrared radiation band. And you can see how they're going. You also see the visual spectrums and others that hit us. But if I look at some of our natural solar energy, we have things like the greenhouse effect, which is seen here, which is the infrared, visible, and UF ultra frequency rays leading here to make that. And we see how that, you know, photosynthesis. One of the ways we use it is photosynthesis, and we're looking at ways to increase it. And that, like I said before, we see it in fossil fuels. We see it in so many different ways. But we're looking at ways to capture and how to increase our use of the power in both active solar technologies and passive solar technologies. And active solar technologies use electrical and mechanical devices to actively convert the solar energy to another form of energy, most often heat or electricity. Passive solar technologies do not use in any external uh, devices. So this is, for example, the example I used earlier of putting a cover over an outdoor swimming pool to capture heat to warm the water is an example of a passive way to get more power from it. Um, and in photovoltaics are really ones which are there. We're looking at ways to increase the efficiency of the photovoltaics all the time. And there's another type of active solar technology, which is concentrated solar energy or concentrated solar power. And what that does is it uses a lens or mirrors to focus, really concentrate the sunlight from a large area to much smaller. Now, these can do things to heat a fluid, as we talked earlier. It can even concentrate it in such a form, it can even cut through metal and other applications like that. Solar furnaces are a great example of concentrated solar power, and we see that. We see many countries experimenting with that right now. There's another type of solar power that uses something called helostats, which these are mirrors that are arranged to track the sun as it goes by, and then they focus on a point for energy conversion, be it heat, water, or others, and you see that. We've also seen more recently some new types of solar power trees coming out to focus this. These use different types of fluids, particularly liquid sodium, that have a higher heat capacity and retain heat over longer times. Uh, but this is one we're seeing many new lenses, many different areas. We're seeing a concept beginning to go today called solar architecture. And solar architecture is really putting in place a variety of technologies to look at how to increase the thermal conversions of what we get from the sun and how we're doing it. Uh, there's just so many different other ones to going on this, but this is some of the advantages of we're seeing there. And even us, we know our mood is affected by the amount of sunlight we get, the amount of sun energy we receive. We know some of the vitamins that we receive in our body are heavily influenced by what we get from the sun and the power from the sun. So, Sharif, I think this is an example to get us into this topic today. And it looks like to me Sharif doesn't have his ear set in. So, Hugh, Why don't you go ahead and go next?
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Okay, hi there. Yeah. Anyway, we need to have overview, especially in this forum. Okay, I advise everybody to give an overview first. Okay, the overall balance between the Earth and the Sun in energy coming in and the emit is about 1 watt per square meter out of over 330 watt per meter square. The energy coming in and getting out is in the order of 330 watt per square meter. So it's really just about 0.3%, of this net gain. It seems like a very, very accurate and small. Anybody, if the earth is designed, somebody did a real good job, okay, to have such a fine balance between the earth and the sun. Okay, because this extreme accuracy, you can almost say it's extreme. It's 1 or 2% maybe. It's still not right, but it's something in the order of 0.3%. So I would advise people in the climate study, they should definitely use the infinite spreadsheet to calculate every watt per meter gained or lost, okay, for the entire Earth and for time to infinity. Okay, you cannot say that we're going to do it right now or we forget about the future, because every 40,000 years, the Earth tilt. Okay, and for even longer time, there's cycle where the Earth spins, take a longer orbit. So we got come and go of the ice age. Okay, so that there is a need for us to today we don't want to have more solar energy. Okay, we have a global warming, so we want to get rid of some of the solar energy. Okay, how do we absorb the solar energy, make the balance in the order of say -1 watt instead of +1 watt? Okay, actually just make it slightly lower. Okay, so this calculation is very delicate. Okay, somebody did a real good job. Okay, we need to understand this balance between the sun and the earth, in great detail. For example, the greenhouse effect is, the number one culprit is water, H2O. Okay, in the form of cloud. The second culprit is CO2, which people all blend to cause the greenhouse effect. But the CO2 is only 1/3 of the effect of water. Okay, so the other things people complain, they don't contribute. They contribute very little. So people have to have some kind of overall understanding, then zero in to this accurate calculation based on infinite spreadsheet. Okay, to balance this just one watt per square meter difference. Okay, see if we can really be able to increase the energy absorbed on Earth or decrease the energy on Earth, decrease the amount of energy on Earth. Okay, so we need to have the two things. Humans, in order to survive all the ice age or the climate change, we need to have two things. The first thing is we need to allow the sun to warm us, and also allow the earth to reflect. For example, reflection is much better on desert than by trees. So tree could be one of the big culprits of global warming. Okay, it's people get all kind of not perfect information. We almost need to have within 1% error information for this study of this sun and the earth balance. Okay, so this all this talk about trees being good or bad, maybe today we need to have more reflection. Okay, and also the reason for this H2 and CO2 is that we don't want you know the molecules to have too many bending or things which can absorb the infrared. Mostly it's infrared radiation. And they've talked about photosynthesis and the respiration and decay, which is actually pretty much balanced. You see, you have photosynthesis, then you have decay. Okay, so basically coming in and going back. So this, my own also another thing I'm doing, I have done in almost all my education life, for the last 60 years, is to work on this fusion reactor. So eventually we need, you see, this the problem is very, very, fundamental. It's very simple. It's change matter into energy or energy back into matter. Okay, this oscillation, energy and the matter exchange is what's causing this Earth's balance. So in the future, if we have ice age, we want to warm up the Earth. So at that time, I would say the fusion reactor. My education is based on control fusion. It's plasma and the control fusion. Okay, the plasma part is it's very difficult theoretically. So today, the fusion research has been renewed, and the people just throw away the plasma part. As far as I know, when I was being educated, there were only 2,000 people in the world who can understand the plasma theory because there's so much mathematics involved. Unfortunately, the mathematics they use, it turned out to be not quite adequate. And I have two of the authorities as my teacher in plasma physics. The kinetic theory and the magnetofluid dynamic theory, they are both inadequate because they did not consider the E cross B drift, which turned out to be along the magnetic field. You see, it's a circulatory drift, so it involves acceleration. Okay, so if you describe a plasma particle by velocity and the spatial coordinate, it's insufficient. You need to describe also in terms of acceleration. In other words, particles, you describe plasma as a fluid, you got to have specify its position, its velocity, and also its acceleration. You see, if they have the same position, velocity, acceleration, then they will move together. Then you have a theory, you have fluid theory. So both kinetic theory and fluid dynamics, they both neglect that. So there was no theory. The theory is already difficult enough with the kinetic theory and the fluid dynamics. So now with this addition of this acceleration that I proposed as the foundation for plasma physics is going to make things even more difficult for plasma physics. But they just go ahead and neglect all the theory and start to build reactors. And I look at all this reactor, I think all this magnetic field, electric field, chemical energy, infrared, they are not comparable to the energy, comparable to nuclear energy. Okay, nuclear energy is in another level, but they're even higher level. The higher level is the explosion. Okay, nuclear explosion take the highest level. Okay, even chemical explosion take a high level. So all these things are not being considered. So, but we need to solve this fusion problem. We need to solve nuclear energy problem. So eventually, when we really need to heat up the Earth, we will need the fusion energy, change matter into energy faster different order. So here's this whole balance act for us to follow. Whoever already gave us this very, very, very well designed Earth balance against the sun. Okay, it's within 0.3% accuracy. Okay, here's my comment.
All right.
Okay,
Pretty cool.
Jason.
Mr. Jason.
I seen a new design for a fusion reactor. I'm not an expert in fusion or nothing. I understand the concept, and this one was doing it a little different to where it didn't. Its main design wasn't to try to hold the whole thing inside the magnetic field all the time.
Yeah.
It would generate two smaller ones in this, and then shoot them at each other, and then get the energy somehow from out of that. So it didn't have to sit there and use all this energy containing, from the magnetic field. I thought that was kind of interesting. So they're taking a new approach to that. As far as getting energy out of the sun, there's a lot more energy around here from the sun than we really realize. We got to remember that outside in space is very cold. So just because it might be cold to us does not mean that there is not energy there. There's all kinds of ways in which we can get energy from a difference in heat. The amount of heat that is high compared to the low, it might seem like that's super cold to us, but there's still energy there that we can get from the transfer of heat through another. A Stirling engine works by a heat source heating up this a body of either air or some other liquid or something, which causes it to expand, which raises this a piston, which causes this, it's a way to where we can get mechanical energy out of heat. And that can exist anywhere that there is a differential. That's why they call them heat differential engines, because you can get energy even if it's cold to us. Like, for instance, there are certain liquids that will boil at very cold temperatures. So you could take a panels and fill it with like whatever the refrigerant is, and the heat, even if it's cold outside, it could be, freezing the water, and this will still absorb that energy because it is colder. And so whenever you have that transfer, then you can that'll cause pressure. And because if you get pressure, heat and pressure are directly related. You change one, you change the other. So if you can get pressure, you can get heat. So you can get heat over here out of an area that is cold to us. It takes the ambient heat from the difference. And so that is a huge stockpile of energy everywhere. So we can get that. There's thermal electric chips. There's little bitty chips that you can get for like $2. They do basically the same thing as a Stirling engine, only there's no mechanical parts. It all happens, electrically. And so
David H.
that
No, I'm not that David.
Sorry, I got my robot
there was gonna
talking.
be a meeting around this time. Or did I screw up?
Jason, yeah, you want me to continue?
Yeah. Sorry, I had my robot on talking, and somebody was messaging me. Whoops. There's there's also another thing that Tesla came up with called the apparatus for the utilization of radiant energy. Okay, now it is another super simple device, and basically it's a plate up in the air, and it's grounded, and it has an oscillator, which is just something that switches, and a capacitor. So the oscillator just discharges what's in the capacitor, and then the plate gets hit by cosmic rays. It could be the sun, it could be radio waves, it could be the energy that's coming from a star that's bazillion far, so we can actually get energy from not just our sun, but other stars, which is cosmic radiation. We can get energy from that. The universe, we look around in our reality and we see that everything is sitting still. And so to us, to our perception, the natural state of the universe is sitting still, but it's not. Everything in the universe is moving. Our Earth is moving, the sun's moving, the galaxies are moving, everything is in motion. So the natural state of the universe is motion, not sitting still. So we live in a sea of energy. The Earth itself sort of is like you was saying earlier. It's whoever built it did a really good job, because the way the magnetic field is, sometimes it almost seems like we're living inside of a big dynamo, and so there's all kinds of energy there. I'm sure there's lots of scientists that are using that to figure out anti-gravity and things like that, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I don't know where Dave and Sharif went, but this idea that getting more energy from the sun, I think it goes way farther than just the light we see coming down. There's all the matter itself, stores energy from the sun. If a rock gets hot, well, it's storing the energy from the sun. So there's ways we can get energy from all of that, and the whole reaction of the Earth and all its storms and everything, that's all really comes from the sun, which is causing all that. And so there's ways we can get energy from the byproducts of the sun making things happen. If it causes some sort of motion, we can get energy from any kind of motion. So there's indirect ways that we could get, you could get a big airbag and put it under a giant weight, and then heat that up, expand it, lift the weight, and then have a mechanism that slowly lets that out, and you can get something spinning and get energy from that. So theoretically, I don't really understand why somebody hasn't figured out how to use the energy from lightning bolts to heat something, to lift something, and then get energy from it. That seems like a no-brainer to me, really. I remember saying that to my physical science teacher in freshman year, and he didn't have an answer for me then either. But that's what I'm saying. The universe is just full of energy. There's a million ways to get at it, and it's all from the sun. It all comes from the sun, except for, that thing I was telling you about, Tesla's thing, where but still, even then, it's still the same. It's from a sun, just some other sun. So I don't know. Pass it back to you, man. Whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that reflecting thing. I wanted to take you. You were talking about reflecting that.
Yeah. Refracting.
Yeah, there's a snowball Earth theory that sometimes that process can run away and cause snowball Earth, and so I imagine we would.
Yeah. Okay. Basically, you're talking about instabilities. You see, all this perturbation instability, whether some cycles will create more energy as a cycle, okay, and they're getting more and more and more, like the forest. You see, forest land, they tend to cycle, create a cycle which will become instability, which will warm up the earth. Okay, so most people think forest is good, but they're going to warm up the earth. Okay, the way they warm up the earth, the greenhouse effect also warm up the earth by, molecules, they simple molecule, they just vibrate back and forth. But the complicated molecule like water and the carbon dioxide, they tend to have all kinds of motions, which tend to reflect infrared radiation. And when they reflect, they don't reflect in one particular direction, they reflect randomly. So in other words, if without this gas, the sunlight will reflect back into space, but with this molecule, they tend to reflect back onto the Earth. So they're reflected back to the Earth. So that causes global warming. So now everybody blaming carbon dioxide for global warming. Eventually, we might want to warm up the Earth, but today we want to get rid of carbon dioxide. At least the pollution is terrible. It's causing, like David said, we need to worry about our health with so much, carbon dioxide emitted through this automobile and the factories, which is competing for oxygen, competing against humans for oxygen. This, since I'm here talking about this, let me just talk about this whole picture of energy. Okay, energy and the mass. Okay, they have this equal mc squared. I'm one of the person who's against. We never observe a mass except by the force created by field. Okay, when you have two object contact, they reject each other. Because of the electromagnetic force, not because of any physical force. There's never any physical force observed on anywhere. So basically, electromagnetic force is responsible for this mass. So this equation should be written, in my opinion, it should be written as m equal to E divided by C squared. Okay, because m is the unknown. Okay, m is the mystery here. It's energy we know. Speed of light we can calculate. Okay, so remaining variables m equal E divided by C squared. And with that, let's talk about energy and matter transfer. How do we create energy from matter? Okay. When something moving, there is energy mv squared divided by 2. Kinetic energy. So this kinetic energy is transferred from the mass. Okay, there's some loss of mass, some gain of kinetic energy. This matter is moving. If the matter is moving, it creates, there is no such thing as a absolute velocity. Okay, one thing is moving, the other thing is stationary. So the only way to make this logically consistent is to have the theory of relativity. Okay, and the energy and matter is equivalence of energy and matter should come out of this equivalent relationship. In the old days, Mach and Maxwell, Boltzmann, they already going in a direction where they calculate, they don't want to sort of inventing new laws. They just want to make all the motion and the energy consistent. Okay, so then come Einstein and other people who make a big, they make themselves famous by making, some inventing some new terms, So I would prefer to go back to this old idea of lawless physics. Okay, let's just try to inventing as few laws as possible, and do everything by logic, as much logic as possible. In any case, let's get back to this energy problem. Energy and mass. Okay, how do you create energy? Chemical reaction create energy. Motion create energy. The smallest energy created is by motion. Okay, steering engine is the example. Jason's steering engine is an example of creating energy. Wait a minute, but the steering energy is so tiny. Okay, it's very, very small amount. Okay, then if you go up higher level, you go to chemical energy. Okay, chemical energy is give out more energy. Then there's other method. All this energy production is measured in Kelvin, K. Okay, Kelvin, degrees of centigrade. Okay, you see this. All this is low energy. Kelvin is in comparison to the energy from the sun, which is measured in keV. Okay, keV is in the order of millions or billion times of Kelvin. keV and Kelvin, two totally different measurements. Okay, all this chemical energy, mechanical energy, all measured in, we measure temperature, human temperature. It's all measured in Kelvin. Okay, Celsius, degree of Celsius. Okay, so the sun gives us energy in the order of millions of billions of Celsius. Actually, in order of billions of Celsius, of Kelvin. And where does sun's energy come? It comes from fusion. So in other words, this is a nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is another level from chemical energy. So when the atom fuse or fission, both create mass is lost and create neutrons, which are measured in MeV. Okay, not just keV, MeV. That's where we have so much power from nuclear reactors, fusion reactors. So it's a different order of energy coming out. But there's one problem. Okay, we don't want to go up higher. Okay, because we go higher, we're dealing with weapon. Okay, politician has the monopoly on developing weapon. I wish the world would no longer talk about weapon, have peace, so we can use the highest form of energy to create energy on Earth. Okay, so when the chemical compound explodes, you create an order of energy which is much greater than just simple chemical reaction. But you have some nuclear material which explodes, which increase the magnitude even to a much higher order. Okay, so all this energy level shows that today the fusion reactor, most of them will not be successful. See, Jason mentioned two things, two blob of plasma coming together collide. Okay, this you are talking about velocity, which is in the order of just the steering engine is such very, very low energy production. Okay, then you have plasma colliding. This will produce just, it's also a matter of degree, maybe 1,000 degree, not into the order of millions, billions of degrees. Okay, this order has to go into nuclear energy. The nuclear energy need to be triggered by like fusion reactor. You see, today the only successful fusion reaction is from the thermonuclear explosion. Okay, which has to be heated by fission reaction. Okay, by chain reaction. Okay, chain reaction is explosion. Okay. So this level of energy production it's totally different level. We had to start to think in terms of this fundamental problem. The level of production, you're talking about energy, talking about electrical power, which are in the order of Celsius, Kelvin. It's less than 1,000 degree temperature. Okay, now we go to nuclear. It's order of magnitude, 2-3 order of magnitude. We're talking about millions and billions of Kelvin. So we need to work on this as far as the sun energy or the earth energy goes. We need to go into this nuclear energy in order to balance, in order to gain some energy on Earth, change some matter into energy. If we use chemical, okay, today we use chemical, okay, we burn fossil fuel, okay, which is not increase the energy very much, but it's going, it causes carbon dioxide, okay, which has another effect, unsuspected effect of reflecting. But the carbon dioxide is 1/3 as effective as water in reflecting the energy back. So even its effective, its effect is still not as most people try to claim. Okay, but still, we need to get rid of this carbon dioxide. See, this is upsetting the balance. Unfortunately, we are on a gradually moving into ice age. So there's a global cooling effect. So when we really get into global cooling, ice age, then how would the human race survive? We might need to heat up the Earth. We need to do some very careful calculation within the accuracy of 1%. I would really suggest that people would learn something about this solution value and calculate exactly, and also understand the level of energy production. You cannot have all this, random idea of some people try to commercialize the fusion reactor. If you ask me as a consultant, I would tell you your energy. You're talking about different level of energy. Okay, you need to talk about, you want nuclear energy, you need to have nuclear energy to generate the heat to cause all this fusion. You cannot have this. Okay. Yeah, so basically, I'm a fusion expert, so let me give you some rundown of what's going on with this fusion research. Okay, now they have not been able to produce any real fusion effect, net effect. So the one that is most impressive, they want to get to a level of, say, Q. They have a measure. Q is measure of, the main thing is density, temperature, and also also energy production. Is it? So the first one that's getting to Q1 we want Q to be 1, okay? So the closest was 1997. They have a jet, which is made in United Kingdom, which get a Q of 0.65. They planning on the next one, which is ITER, okay, ITER, which will put in 2040. So they are putting things, 20 years ahead. They say they're going to make it. That thing will go above 1, maybe go to 10. You see, from 1 to 10. Okay, so I expect a fusion reaction. It's not even a reactor. It's just a reaction, net gain of energy. So that will be in 20 years. Okay, and so they're also my own school, MIT, which is part of the inventor of a super high temperature superconductors. Okay, they're talking about high temperature superconductor. They're talking about the best is 23 degree, minus 23 degrees C. Okay, roughly they might use something like 170 degrees Celsius. So that would allow the MIT people to make, which is designed by students, make a machine called ARC, A-R-C, which is only 3 meters in size, small, and which would be able to use high temperature superconductor to create to reach Q above 1. They suspect, but it's only in the process of building. Then there is another more professional design, which will come out in 10 to 15 years. So it will reduce the time of fusion by 10 years. It's called Spark. You probably heard of, from YouTube, which is stand for smallest possible arc. Okay, and so this would be more cost effective, because this ITER need the worldwide cooperation in order to have enough money to build. So basically, all these things, for example, today, see, if they make a fusion reaction feasible in the laboratory, that would be equivalent to the discovery of nuclear chain reaction. You see, the nuclear chain reaction was discovered in 1913 by Maxwell Boldenstein. But it took another 30 years, 1942, to build a reactor, to start to construct a reactor, the Chicago Pi 1 reactor. So after they have finished their demonstration of Q above 1, we need 30 years to actually build the first commercial fusion reactor. Okay, so this thing is way 50 years in the future, or if it ever comes. Okay, I would hear, for the last few minutes, I would say something, to make this talk more effective for people who are still listening to this. I would be very interested in hearing people who have ideas on two of the hottest topic today, where people talk a great deal about. The first one is obvious, the fusion reactor. Okay, anybody who has any idea or is interested in in this fusion reactor, they should contact Sheriff and he can get in touch with me. And I'm willing to entertain any ideas regarding fusion reactor. But you have to sort of listen to what I said. We need energy, not current. Okay, you run a current through plasma, you're not going to cause fusion. You need to some nuclear energy to heat up the plasma. The other topic is not related to today's talk is robotics. You see, robotics is a very interesting topic. Human beings try to make robots to replace themselves. So, the Japanese is first one to feel that they might be able to do it. So in 1990, I went to Singapore, and some reporter in Singapore told me that Japan failed in its fifth generation computer science, which is artificial intelligence. Okay, today we're talking good about artificial intelligence, but Japanese failed. Okay, and then they switched to sixth generation computer science, which is robotics. So they spent 10 years intensively working on in the 1990s, intensive on robotics, but they couldn't do it. Okay, they cannot build a robot to replace any of the human work. And my best friend is from Japan. He started the computer science department in the 1930s. And he told me that Japan failed the robot because the robot cannot come into contact with the environment. The robot cannot touch. Okay, when robot touch, the finger bounce off a surface just like a ball bounce off a surface of a racket. Okay, and I told my friend I solved the problem how to keep the ball not bouncing off the racket. Then he said I solved the fundamental problem in robotics, which is contact, touch. Okay, today, a few days ago, one of the most, I most admired, I'm most admired entrepreneur, Elon Musk. He announced the AI Day too. Okay, he started reignite this competition in robotics. But there's some question whether he even even realize the problem of touch. Okay, he's an engineer. Okay, the scientists at least realize there's a problem of touch nobody can solve. All the way from Isaac Newton to Robert Hooke to this genius scientist, Heinrich Hertz. Okay, then I also asked Freeman Dyson. He's also a genius, mathematical genius. He couldn't solve it. The only person who can think about this problem is Dai Wu, the Chinese father of physics. He has two students who both of them have Nobel Prize. And those two students, they couldn't solve it. Okay, so this problem seems to be very difficult to solve. Anybody who has any possible solution for touch, or historical, it's known as the contact problem. In other words, when you want to push something, you have to make contact first. How do you make contact not bouncing back? Okay, another, how to a ball hit a racket, how do you make it not bounce off? If anybody who's interested in that or have solved that, also Sheriff, you should go do the double hitting. Now the opportunity arises again by this AI Day too. He doesn't realize the significance. You probably didn't realize the significance. Okay, the physicists at least know the significance, but they don't have the solution, so they run away from this solution. But now, Elon Musk, Tesla, again put this problem on the table. He needs to solve it. If he doesn't solve it, he will be like Japan. Okay, Japanese, even they failed in their robotics, the sixth generation computer science. But every time there's a robotic competition, Japanese always come on top. They always get the first prize. So Elon Musk should really try to, either figure out how to solve the problem, touch, or get in contact with my organization, Posan Institute. So I can explain to him what this whole thing involves. Okay, and he's up against very stiff competition because Japanese has 10 years head start or even 20 years head start in robotics. They know how to do this. Okay, and also other countries like China, Taiwan, they all have much cheaper labor. Okay, so this is a competition. I'm so glad that the Elon Musk start to challenge this problem of building a robot. Sheriff, you need, Dr. Sheriff, you need to send me the video you are doing double hitting. You see, if anybody can make a robot that can hit the ball twice in one smooth stroke, that nation, that country will be the leader of robotics. Okay. You know, if you can hit a ball twice with a robot, that means you understand the concept behind all this touch. So I
Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, I bring this two problem for you people. If anybody want to work on this problem, contact Dr. Sheriff, and he will.
Yes, Professor, I will do double hitting.
Yeah,
and I come back to you.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Now you have to do it because
now
they are challenging you. Not me. No, Elon Musk is challenging you.
Yes, Elon Musk challenge. Okay, so thank you, Professor. Thank you for your excellent discussions. I request all of our audience, please share our content with your government agencies, corporation, and academy. Thank you, Professor Ching, Mr. Jason, and Professor David Smith for your continuous support for WTEF. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care.
Yeah, Sheriff, you can post here, on your forum, your double hit.
Sure.
Not only you can get any of your students, any of your friends to do it. Then you post it here. It's going to cause a sensation. Everybody in the world will come to watch your forum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye and take care.
Okay, bye.